Okay, everybody. Hello. Welcome to our One World Energy Encounter with the Zohar. This week's portion is Et Hanan, so it's volume 22, and we are at verse 150. Let's invite in the lineage of the Rav and Karen and Michael, Rabbi Shlag, Rabbi Brandwein, the Ari HaKodesh, the Ramchal, Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Avram Mazulai, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Vitebsk, Rabbi Kolon Shapira Piasetzna, the Baal Shem Tov, and all the students, Rabbi Mordechai of Chernobyl, One Soul with Yosef Tzadik in Shechem. Today is also the anniversary of elevation of Yisachar, head of the tribe of Yisachar, one of the 12 tribes. So that's a big assistance. Also, Rav Dan Yitzchak Abarbanel, and also Rav David Forkas, a student of the Baal Shem Tov. So we have their assistance also. This is the 10th day of Leo of Av. And so yesterday, on the 9th of Av, it's the most intensely negative day on the whole calendar. Our teachers teach us that it's the day where the Satan, the embodiment of all negativity, has free reign, like there's no filter. The Shekhinah, this aspect of the Creator that is there to filter, to assist us, it is not there. And so it's a day where, a lot of crazy, terrible tragedies and catastrophes have occurred. The two temples were destroyed on that day. The final solution was signed in Germany on that day. The expulsion of the Jews from Spain was also initiated on that day. Just a lot of bad karma on that day. So we're actually told that, so there's restrictions that we have on that day to assist us in connecting more spiritually so that we can do what? Well, as the Rav taught, so we can provide more light on a day of darkness. And, with the Rav, how we spoke about this, and I read something a speech he gave like 23 years ago. We've always looked at it as just it was a negative day, but we know, and the Zohar points out, that when we reveal light, darkness goes. Where does darkness go? When you turn a light, you're in a dark room, you turn a light on, where did darkness go? Where does it go? Like, what's science's explanation for that? Well, there's light in the room. So that's where darkness went. It doesn't explain where it went. You shut the light off, darkness returns. So I know it sounds like a very corny example, but this is the way the world works. It works that way in science, and it works also that way from a spiritual perspective, that whenever we can reveal light, we are removing darkness. And so yesterday was our opportunity to remove darkness for the year at a seed level for the next year. So as difficult as a day as it was, because like fasting and it's a long day, at least in North America it is. And the fast went till 9:05. So that's a long day. And it was hot. I mean, it's a rough day, but on the other hand, our consciousness determines everything. So those restrictions are there to give us the opportunity to remove negativity from the world. And so what our teachers teach us additionally is that when the temple was destroyed, the fires continued to simmer on the following day. That would be today on the 10th of Leo, the 10th of Av. And typically by midday, that energy shifts. We're about 32 minutes away from that shift, which is approximately 12:57 Central Time. That's when midday happens. That's when the energy of the light of Shabbat is also infusing our realm. So as difficult as the first 9 days of Leo of Av were, and as difficult as yesterday was, we're going to be experiencing a lightening, a transition energetically. It's already probably happening, but it's going to really happen in earnest in another half hour or so. So what better way to usher that in than with us connecting to the flawless universe, the level of Binah, through our study of Zohar. And here we go. Anyone want to volunteer to read English for us today? Thanks, Maria. Okay, we're at verse 150. The title of this article is, at first, the evil inclination is like a guest. Tachazeh, Yetzer hara lama hu domeh, b'sha'ata de'ate li'izdavga bebarnash, hu kefar zola, ad alin le benura, batar di'itchamem itadarkola kenura.
Come and see what the evil inclination is like.
Okay, so the Zohar, just so we're clear, we're doing an examination of evil inclination. What does the Zohar tell us about the evil inclination? Go ahead.
When it comes to join man, it is like iron before it is put into the fire. After it is heated, the whole of it again and becomes like fire.
What are we talking about? How is that helpful? What does that even mean? So let's take a step back and let's think about what exactly evil inclination is. We have consciousness. It's like, the more I study, the more aspects of consciousness kind of reveal themselves in my mind's eye. What is consciousness? Well, at a very simple level, consciousness is like you're looking out through your eyeballs. That's one aspect of consciousness. I'm looking around and I'm thinking about what I see. I don't even have to think about it. I just can observe what I see. That's my consciousness. Or, thinking about what I'm going to have for lunch. That's my consciousness. It's not necessarily a very high level of consciousness, but it's a consciousness. What shirt I'm going to wear today? Who am I going to, have dinner with tonight? What I'm doing at work, what I'm not doing at work. All these things, what's on my to-do list? Will I remember to pick up the dial-in order I made at Target today? The online order I made at Target. Will I remember to pick that up? All these things that are going on in my head. What's an elevated consciousness? Anyone want to take a stab at that? What's an elevated consciousness?
One that you're thinking of other people.
Okay,
Not
so
yourself.
a great example. When I think of someone other than myself, I am at an elevated consciousness. It's just not about me. I'm actually looking beyond me. Anyone else? There's no wrong answers here. What's an elevated consciousness? So what I heard the Rav say, and it was a very old, also another class, probably 20 years old, what I heard the Rav say is, anytime you're thinking about what you're doing, as opposed to thinking about what you're doing. In other words, anytime you're kind of taking a step and observing what's going on. And the example he gives is, if you're, and my words, not his, but if you're working on a building and you're laying the bricks, okay, that's one level. If you take a step back and you look at the blueprint, that's an elevated consciousness. You're still working on the building, but you're not actually laying the bricks physically. You're thinking about how you are building the building. You're looking at the blueprints. You're looking at the design. Maybe you're actually working on the design. That's an elevated consciousness. When we think about our life, we take a step back and we think about why we are doing what we're doing, why we're laying the bricks that we are. That's an elevated consciousness. So when we are observing what's going on, is another way to look at it. Now you can also, as another teacher taught me a long time ago, observing is an elevated consciousness, but you can also observe the observer. Why am I looking at it that way? Why did I design the blueprint in the way I did? Or why did the architect write up the blueprint the way he did? That's like observing the observing of the actual building of the building. That is a next level elevated consciousness. Why do we even want to think about that? Why? Because things are playing out in our life in a certain way. Every brick you lay is building a building. Well, if I don't like the way the building is turning out, perhaps I should be laying the bricks differently, or using different bricks, or hire more people to lay the bricks. I mean, when I take a step back and observe what's going on in my life, what I'm doing, I create an opening for me to create a different life. So the first benefit of an elevated consciousness is my consciousness determines my reality. So if I want a different reality, I need to elevate my consciousness and change my trajectory from this to this, by way of example. When we change the way we do stuff, we're changing also the result we're going to experience. If we do it with the right kind of thought, if we do it, we think about not ourselves, but how we're helping the world, it's a much more elevated consciousness. So is it that simple? Not quite. Is there any energy consciousness that stands in the way of me enhancing my consciousness and creating a better life and a better world? There is. We call it the evil inclination. That's what we're talking about.
So
And
when,
what is-
so when we get lazy, for instance, right? Like I need to go someplace or I see something and I don't want to do it and I find an excuse within myself not to get there, that will be the evil inclination, right?
Well, maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe there's a reason I'm not doing it. Maybe I'm getting a message from my guides that I shouldn't do it. I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's not so simple because, I'm getting lazy. I'm not going to do that. I decide I'm actually not going to go pick up my order list at Target in the morning. I'm going to wait till the afternoon. Let's just say I decide to do that because I'm just putting it off. But when I say I'm putting it off and I'm lazy, I'm making a judgment. Who do you think makes those judgments? Who's responsible for that judgment? It's the evil inclination, arguably. Why even attach a judgment? Not everything needs to be done now. And so the other side of the coin is like, on the one hand, I could be just a procrastinator and lazy. On the other hand, I might be missing something else. And the example I'll give is, I remember this, like when I back in school 100 years ago, when I'd be studying for a test, sometimes I would catch myself cleaning my room instead of studying, because that was the easier thing to do. So it's not so clear sometimes that the way we're looking at it is a negative. Even the example of procrastination, everybody on the planet procrastinates. There isn't anybody in the world that doesn't procrastinate. So why are we attaching negativity to this idea of procrastination? Maybe we're procrastinating because we're not supposed to be doing it. Maybe there's a reason we're actually not supposed to be doing it. Maybe in our work lives or our home lives, we need to find someone else to do it because it's just not where I should be putting my time and my energy. Maybe I should be delegating that task. And I keep getting caught up in tasks because delegating is so difficult for me because I can't let go because I don't think they're going to do it as well as I'm doing it. And so I get caught, see where I'm going? And then I get caught up in stuff and I'm not getting the work I'm supposed to be doing that I'm actually getting evaluated on. I'm not getting to because I'm caught up in stuff I can't let go of. See, it's not so easy. So, well, one of the things that we're taught about the evil inclination, about the Yetzer Hara, is that the first thing the evil inclination wants you to know is it's not real. So let's just start there. Let's just start there. It's real. Wait a minute, come on, who are we kidding? It's real. I know, but seriously, when you are doubting the existence of evil inclination, you're playing right into the hand of the evil inclination. The first thing that evil inclination wants you to know is that it doesn't exist. It's you. It's not you. That voice in your head that is getting you off track is not you. It's actually an external energy. the way this is taught sometimes is there's always two radio stations playing in your head. I mean, in mine, there's more, but I'm joking. There's always two radio stations playing in your head. There's KAOS, chaos. The DJ there is the evil inclination. And then there's the light, WLIT. That's your soul. And an elevated consciousness in this example is understanding that there are two wavelengths playing in your head. One is your soul and one is your evil inclination. And the evil inclination is desire to receive for the self. It's body consciousness. When you catch yourself in a really judgy state, which yesterday, because it was such a negative day, was easy to do, which is why we have those restrictions. If you catch yourself in a judgy state, that's not you. Your soul would never judge that way. If you find yourself, someone asks you for advice and you find yourself giving, like, just finding a way to suppress your judgments and really talk to someone with the perspective of what's in their best interests, that is connection to the soul. And that's where we want to be. And the question is, how do we get there more? One of the messages that came through yesterday from our teacher Karen was, if you're on this path and you're coming from your heart-centered, you're thinking about the world in what you do, you have her in the Rav support. You have the support of the whole lineage of Kabbalists who are always trying to rise above evil inclination, desire to receive the self, and taught us the importance of having that consciousness and opened up for us access to the Zohar as a tool to assist us in moving in that direction. So one of the very tangible spiritual benefits of connecting to this particular section is it assists us in developing the skills we need to rise above body consciousness, desire to receive the self, evil inclination, and to spend more of our consciousness connected to soul, connected to the radio station WLIT. Any questions about that? So ultimately, what does it mean that the evil inclination joins man like iron before it's put into the fire? It is external. It's not like man. And what does it mean? It's heated, the whole of it again becomes like fire. We internalize it. We treat it like it's us. We give it a home. We treat it like it's part of the house. It's a different energy consciousness that we internalize. And so part of our work is to externalize it, not internalize it. Realize it's not us. It's not your soul. It's like, who are you giving control of the control tower to? Who's in charge? Who's pulling the levers? Who's running the show? It's like when you see someone who's really lost it and you're like, what got into him? Evil inclinations, what got into him? I don't know how I did that. You did it. You gave over control through anger or through envy or through the desire to be recognized, seen for my importance. You're definitely important. You're the spark of the creator there. It's not what we're talking about. It's like, I want recognition for what I do. We all have this. There's no one not here who doesn't have it. We all have it. And the only question is, we recognize it in varying degrees and at various times. And there are aspects of our consciousness where we see it and aspects of our consciousness where we don't see it. But if we want a better outcome, we need to look on the outlook for it. And the best way to neutralize it is to say, wow, that's not me. That's the evil inclination. That's my desire to receive the self. That's my body consciousness. The more I can recognize it for what it is, the better able I am to navigate around it. Okay, let's take the next paragraph. Rabbi Chia, 151, Rabbi Chia Amar, Yetzer Hara kad ate li'izdavga be lebarnash. Dame lebarnash dekariv lefitcha, v'chame la it man demache bidei. Al leveta bit aved le olreach. Chamadala it man dimache bidei, v'yezil le la'arche. Kevin da ayel leveta, v'la'it diyimche bidei, it mena ale. Bit aved mare de beta ad yishtechach the chol beta kaim bershute.
Rabbi Chia said, when the evil inclination comes to join man, it is like a man who approaches the gate and sees there is no one at home to detain him.
Okay, so the evil inclination arrives, sees there's no one checking the door, and walks in. We just let him in. Because why? Because we're not on the lookout. We need to be at the door. We need to guard our gates. The gates, in this case, what's the gates? It's our five senses. It's our consciousness. And the thing is that our consciousness deals with all five senses. All five senses are contributed. And by that's the interesting thing about the five restrictions on yesterday, on the 9th of Av. We're trying to limit the impact our five senses is having on consciousness and rise above that. And so we have to be on guard. Yes, I was hungry. Yes, I was thirsty. Yes, a shower would have been a great idea. All those things. But we're minimizing physicality so we can make a stronger soul connection on a day where physicality, I mean, it could have catastrophic consequences. So, but every day we're dealing with it. By the way, Shabbat, we also have restrictions of a different nature. And the connection is through joy. And that's the energy that starts. I know it's like it's TGIF, thank God it's Friday, right? Well, what came first, the Sabbath or TGIF? I read the creation story. It's the Sabbath came first. It's that energy that tips the scale in favor of the flawless universe, of the Garden of Eden. That's what's going on in another, 16 or so minutes. That energy of the Sabbath starts to infiltrate our realm, and the scale gets tipped away from the advantage to the other side. Maria, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to share this because since we started this discussion about the evil inclination and how heavy you're being, really illustrating samples and the profound of it and how we should be really prepare ourselves for that. I'm just keep questioning myself how. Okay, this is what happened. And through all these weeks, I've been preparing with direction from my teachers and the groups we're doing for get ready for last night, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm in the office, and granted, 30 minutes driving to the office, I'm preparing myself, because it could be challenging, and I'm consider myself a perfectionist. Things have to be done, certain things. You take care of customers, you got to make sure you're correct, especially when you're dealing with their money. So I just had this conversation with a client, and we needed to do some adjustments. So I asked my team on Monday night to give me certain information to provide certain payments a certain time. And so I could email back to the customer, confirming our conversation and so forth, right? This is your monthly payment on this day. This is an exception for August and September, and they're on continuous. Well, I inquired about that request on Wednesday, because it's been 2 days. My team hasn't come back to me. They finally came back to me, gave me the information, and I have this sense that the information was wrong. It was so vivid. It was so, this information, the numbers don't make sense. But I'm like, I'm going to trust. Let it go, Maria. Trust the team. I drafted the email, looked at it 3 times, and something is telling me, don't send the email to the client. Literally, it's just like, so I'm just calming. I'm like, I'm going to send the email. I send the email. 2 hours later, a member of the team comes and say, Maria, I'm like, yeah. She goes, the numbers that I gave you are incorrect. Well, I lost it. Literally, I lost it. I just went express. I didn't say anything verbally, but I was like, they knew I was so frustrated. And I'm like, how could you? I send this to a client. How unprofessional we look because you make me look unprofessional. So I kind of turned it back at them. And I felt bad because I shouldn't have gone like that. I just went back then to the email and I retrieved the email. They haven't read it. So I was able to retrieve the email and problem solved. But the situation was like how I reacted to that mistake and the fact that I had that sense of feeling inside telling me in different ways, don't trust the information, don't send the email. I was feeling guilty even through yesterday, the way I reacted towards that person. And regardless if she pulled information or not, it's just me, how I could warn myself when situations like that come and that energy comes that's really going to trigger me that easily, how I could control that. Part of it is me, right? But the fact that I've been preparing myself and watching my behavior and being welcoming to everybody and, you know, whatever they come to my office, yes, and mistakes, I just easily let it go with a smile on my face, but not that one. And the reaction towards her was pretty bad. And I was torturing myself that Tuesday, Wednesday night, and even through yesterday. This morning, I sent a quick email and just let her know, hey, I'm sorry about my behavior, blah, blah, blah. She was like, okay, no problem, because she also felt it was her mistake. And I'm like, we'll talk about it Tuesday. But those signs, those feelings, those warning signs, we're studying so hard and dedicated to kind of fix and not fix, but kind of improve those tickuns that we have. But then it just comes when you least expect and makes you react. What would you tell me?
No, it's first of all, thank you for sharing that, because it's an awesome story. I think we can all relate to it in different ways, and there's so many aspects to it. It's such a great illustration. The first thing is you have to start beating yourself up, because that is the work of the Satan, of the other side of evil inclination. When we beat ourselves up, and we do, when we beat ourselves up, like that isn't helping anything. You know, it doesn't really help. And that's what the other side wants to do, is trying to put us down. And so when we beat ourselves up, it's water on the bridge. It's not going to help. I mean, the most proactive way of looking at it is saying, I'm glad this happened, because there's several levels. At one level, it's like you could say, I'm glad this happened because it happened in this situation and it worked out. And maybe there's another situation where I will trust my intuition to check on the numbers. And that may be a more important scenario than this one was. So it happened in this situation, so I am better prepared the next time. And that kind of neutralizes this beating up on myself, because it happened for a reason. That's level one. Level two is the creator pushed you into that. Why would the creator push me into that? Why would the creator have me not listen to myself, not listen to that message I was giving myself, and then react so in a way that I didn't want to? Because you learned from that experience. And without that experience, you don't get to the next level. It's like even our mistakes are bringing us to a higher level. We don't, the Satan, the other side, the evil inclination doesn't want us looking at it that way. That's precisely what's going on. We are growing through those experiences. We're always growing. This was a big teaching of Karen's. I read it yesterday. I don't recall exactly where, but like even our mistakes are steps, are elevations. You know, think about it. You're making a mistake, and it's an opportunity for you to take a step back and look at why I acted the way I am. It's forcing you out of your slumber into an elevated consciousness to critically look at how I'm showing up. So it's really important to look at it from that elevated consciousness. You know, here, listen to the way I'm talking to you. You have the ability to talk to yourself in the same way. I mean, I'm more than happy to do it, but I'm just saying, like, you, part of self-compassion is an elevation in how you handle yourself. The way I'm talking to you about it and neutralizing all the negativity, you also have the ability to talk to yourself that way. I have the ability to talk to myself that way. I mean, 30 minutes ago, I was in a crazy spot. I was working on a document and there were other people that were supposed to work on it, and none of the information is there. I sat with them and went over the information. It's not there. And this is the copy they sent me. Like, I can't rely on them getting it right now, and it has to go in. So I had to do it myself. And so, you know, we're going to get reactive when things don't go the way we want them to. But part of them not going the way we want them to is us growing from those experiences. And, you know, especially as a manager in a business setting, you become a better manager when you can lead in that way. Right?
Right.
So it really is an opportunity. You really expand, again, that experience is helping you to expand your vessel so you can accept more responsibility, because you think about the people who you have to answer to. The ones that you really respect have tremendous capabilities to handle things. I mean, I'm looking at my own life and I'm looking at, like, what is going on? Okay, well, what's going on is my opportunity to grow my vessel so I can handle more. Does that mean less will happen? No, au contraire.
And it's
That's
just
how we grow our vessels. Yes.
it's just like, you know, you're going through the process, right, of weeks, and you just watching yourself and just make sure you practice your what you're learning, and that's the best way. And you're observing yourself to make sure that you're listening and you're using the tools. And then I guess when you feel comfortable in the routine, boom, it's
Boom,
just
you're going to get hit.
it's like
Totally.
that door. It's just that
It's
door.
next level. It's next level. You're always going to your next level. And so, like,
Maria,
the sooner we can, we're going to get dysregulated, but the sooner we can get kind of back to normal. It's like the rock, we throw the rock in the pond, it creates all these waves, and we're like, the sooner we can reach that tranquil place again, that, you know, the better off we are. Someone had their hand up. Was it you, Roshan?
Yeah, it strikes me that sometimes we don't have all the information we need. And so we start making things up. You know, like we start imagining, oh, it must be this, it must be that person. Oh, it's their fault. Oh, they didn't say so and so. And really, if I could just pause and say, I don't have the information yet. I shouldn't be judging the other person. How about looking for an answer together? I mean, it sounds simple, but it's not always that simple.
Not always so simple. You're absolutely right. We get these movies going in our head that's based on partial information because we're always trying to fill in the blanks. That's what our brain does. If it's your soul trying to fill in the blanks, you're going to get one out. You're going to get one path. If it's the evil inclination that's filling in the blanks, it's not a pretty picture. I just want to share that I realized myself recently that I do have an awareness of hearing different voices in the different voices in my head, what it sounds like when I'm in an elevated soul connected place and when it sounds like when I'm not. And I'm just saying it's important for us to observe that difference, because if we can observe that difference, we have a jump on trying to always stay in that elevated place. We're still going to get triggered. We're still going to end up, but we have a jump on that. And the truly elevated souls that we encounter, it's not like they don't have judgments. They do, but they have the resilience to rise above them. You're going to have judgments when you're in physicality. But we also have the ability to rise above that nature. And hopefully, the more we work on it, the more often we can overcome it. Andy, was there something you wanted to contribute?
I was just going to add to Maria that my teacher would tell me that, and it could be different for every student, but I think that it's the same or similar, that it's not about how I snapped. It's about how I beat myself up and ruminated about it afterwards. And that's where sometimes we have to think, is this a ton in how I'm reacting, or is it a ton in how I'm reacting to myself? Like, you know, how am I judging myself? She's big on that, you know? So just FYI.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, that's a tremendous point. And we all do that. We get to that place where we're beating ourselves up. But remember, it's not us who's beating ourselves up. It feels that way. It's not us. It's the other side. And we're just listening. It's as if someone were sitting next to me and just screaming at me and berating me. Why am I letting them do that? I don't need that. It's like, you know, sometimes it's easier for us to find our voice when we're dealing with other people. But we also need to find our voice when we're dealing with that internal negative consciousness of the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara. Okay, let's continue.
It enters the house and becomes a guest, seeing there is no one to prevent it, to send it on its way.
So that's the thing, like we internalize it and we look at it like it's part of us. And so we give it a home. Go ahead.
Once it entered the house and no one prevents it, it is in charge over the house and becomes the landlord, so that the whole house is at its disposal.
It starts as a guest
Takes ownership.
and then shortly, very quickly, becomes the landlord.
Yeah, takes
Starts
ownership.
running the show.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful metaphor for us, again, elevating our consciousness, taking a step back and just observing what's going on in my head, observing those voices. I think it's Michael Singer in the book. I've cited this book before. I think it's The Unbridled Soul. I forget what the book is called exactly, but he says, you know that there's a running narrative in your head. Who's listening? Who is this? We need to distinguish between the speaker and the listener. And that's why the analogy of the guest is so powerful, because it's the guest that's speaking, and we give the guest license to start running the household, this household, my head. We make them head of the household. That's what the landlord essentially is. And our ability to take a step back, to elevate consciousness, to listen to those voices, and to identify those voices gives us the ability to remember who we really are. It's our soul. We are really our soul. And when we listen to those voices, we're marginalizing who we really are and showing up as less than who we really are. When we want our job to be to show up as fully who we are. The world is literally depending on us to show up as the best version of ourselves, as our unadulterated self, removing all those negativities, all those impurities, all those influences that are not soul-based. Okay, everybody, we're out of time. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
And
Thanks,
love you
guys.
all.
Thank
Shabbat
you.
shalom. Have a great week.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat
Bye,
shalom.
guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Shalom.